Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Grizzly Bear Sim's YouTube channel, and welcome back to Green River. This is Green River episode number 29, and we are getting right into the action this morning, kind of picking up where we left off in the previous episode. That was episode number 28, where we were harvesting field number, what was that? Maybe 14. No, 16, and no, actually field number 13. I'll get the numbers right here in just a moment. We were harvesting field number 13 just the other day, and getting that done. That was sunflower, and this is sunflower once again. So a couple of things I wanted to note as I try to figure out where I am on my map. Okay, I think we go up here and then we'll turn left. Again, thanks for tuning in. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. I have deactivated the soil compaction mod, and I will tell you why I did that. You know that I often say that, I think that sometimes mods, because the game isn't built in such a way to sort of natively handle these types of reactions, interactions, and such that we want to have happen. So folks, very talented, smart folks, create mods that essentially sort of overcompensate for whatever it is that they are trying to achieve, whether it be the gearbox mod, the more realistic mod, the soil compaction mod, whatever. And so, unfortunately, the reason why I ended up pulling the compaction mod, I actually quite liked and quite enjoyed the challenge of what it sort of depicted. What I did not like was the fact that it slowed the vehicles down, especially when driving on the highway, on the street. Now, I think, and as I also said at the very beginning as well, that I was kind of learning as I was going along, and so I'm sort of guessing that it slows the vehicles down in an effort to try to compensate or simulate the reactions of the lower tire pressures, especially if you're letting the tire or the air pressure out of the tire to try to reduce the amount of compaction. I'm assuming that it is trying to simulate and react to that particular scenario. But for example, and the reason why I turned it off was when I started recording this episode for the first time this morning. I basically was planning to do exactly what I started this episode doing, driving this truck over here to the grain silo, and got onto the highway there, and it was still just crawling. It was still just crawling along. And I sort of noticed that when I was moving the combine just the other day from the main field. I was coming down this highway, and I was going to turn here, and I was basically going to go back here to that field, the first sunflower field, and it was going very, very slow. I went ahead. I was actually I started the episode, recording the episode back in the main farmyard. Ended up stopping that episode and waiting until I got the combine positioned over here, and then essentially went ahead and started the episode over. And so, I just don't like that. It's okay if it slows the vehicle down in the field, because again, I understand what it's trying to do. But this vehicle, I had not adjusted the tire pressures, the air pressure in the tires, because I don't drive it on the fields. And so, but it was crawling along, and it was just going to take way too long to try to get the grain moved over to the grain silo and back to the farm. And the thing that, I know that every content creator is a little different, but sometimes we're all kind of the same. But as far as me, I sort of look at this as I'm trying to tell a story. I'm trying to tell this story as far as episodes go in around 30 minutes. And I try to do it as realistically as possible, and I try to do it as entertaining as possible for you all. And I try to do it, with very little latency or as much as less boredom as possible. And I know I may not always get that particular piece. But in any event, it was just going to be, I think, a long process to try to get the truck over there and get it back. And I kind of wanted to tell that portion of the story because, well, we had finished harvesting that field in the previous episode, and that was all the sunflowers that we had managed to get off of it. And so I wanted to, sort of just start there, and I didn't want it to take 15 minutes of the episode just to basically drive it over there. So hopefully those are things that maybe they'll take into consideration when they sort of further develop the soil compaction mod. That they will maybe not, limit the speed of the vehicles on surfaces like gravel or on the highway type road tarmac type surface, because again, that would not affect that. And it's kind of like with the more realistic mod. When I had been playing with that, I was excited about it because I thought, okay, this is going to add some additional challenges. Of course, Courseplay had issues with the more realistic mod because it really couldn't compensate and slow down the vehicles and such, and so we were having some challenges around the fact that we were having our vehicles get flipped over and stuff like that. And so anyway, that's sort of the deal. That's sort of the dealio behind that. And yeah, it's okay. I wanted to try it because I kind of thought, okay, well, if this is going to be something that we're going to have access to sooner rather than later for Farm Sim 19, I kind of wanted to get a little bit ahead of the curve. But I think in my mind, what I'm sort of thinking about Farm Sim 19, at least for the first probably for the first month, could be quicker, but I'm thinking that we're going to probably just be playing with it natively, sort of default mode out of the box, however you want to kind of refer to that. And I think that's kind of how that's going to be. But anyway, I hope everyone is having a wonderful day, a wonderful time, and your November is treating you well. This is, of course, in the U.S., this is, of course, Veterans Day weekend. Veterans Day is actually tomorrow, Sunday, the 11th of November. In other parts of the world, like in the UK, I believe it is called Remembrance Day. And essentially, this is such a special year for Remembrance Day. And of course, you're going to see this episode a little bit after the fact of this. I think this episode is going to come out actually on Friday of the 16th. But this is a special year for Veterans Day and Remembrance Day and everything, as tomorrow, Sunday the 11th of November, marks the 100th anniversary of the ending of World War I, and that is that of course is a time to celebrate. Any time that we can have peace in the world is a time to celebrate. I certainly don't like to glorify war. I suppose war is required in some situations, but in any way, peace is certainly a lot more important. And I had the opportunity to visit Ypres, Belgium this last summer when my wife and I went to Belgium to visit her family. And what a remarkable and dare I say, sort of not necessarily attitude changing, because I've always preferred peace over war or violence or anything like that, naturally. But to stand there at the Menin Gate in Ypres, Belgium, and the Menin Gate is a memorial that was constructed after World War I to honor all the British and Commonwealth soldiers who died in and around the area of Ypres, Belgium during World War I, and that their bodies were never recovered. That they have no known gravesite, and it's in the neighborhood of about 54,000 soldiers, I believe. And to stand at this memorial, which is huge. I mean, it's basically a gate, if you will, that road goes under, and it's a memorial on both sides. And this building is huge. It's massive, and there's names on every square inch of it. 54,000 some odd names on this memorial. And they have a celebration each evening called the Last Post, where British soldiers perform the Last Post, and they lay a wreath and everything. And they have done this without interruption since the time that the memorial was built, right after World War I, with the exception of there was a period of time when Ypres, Belgium, was under German occupation, and of course for those years they did not do the Last Post, but it has been carried out 365 days a year without fail since World War I, with the exception of that period of time that I just mentioned. And it was a very special, moving celebration. My wife and I, of course, had an opportunity to walk through one of the smaller military cemeteries there, where British and Commonwealth soldiers are buried, and so many of them were just young boys, 17, 18 years old, and some of the markers don't have a name on them. Some of them just say, here lies a soldier from the British Commonwealth or whatever. And it was very moving, very touching. And of course, this is, as I said before, this is the 100th anniversary of the ending of World War I. And World War I was supposed to be the war that ended all wars, and of course it didn't. And of course, we had another one a few years after that we called World War II. My family, my grandfather on my dad's side went to Europe and fought in World War I. My grandfather on my mom's side fought in Europe on World War II. And I was thinking last night, actually my wife and I were watching an episode of the Antiques Roadshow that was recorded probably back in 2013 or 2014. It was an older episode. And I sort of mentioned to my wife, and it was specifically about World War I. And I sort of told my wife, I said, I'm amazed that I was even born, because having one grandfather that fought in World War I and another one that fought in World War II, it's just amazing that I was even born, because both of my parents were born after their respective fathers got back from war. So my grandfather on my dad's side was much older, and my grandmother as well. They were almost like a generation difference between my grandparents on my mom's side. My grandfather on my dad's side was born in the 1890s, I think 1892 or 5 or something like that. And so there was a big difference. I think my grandfather on my mom's side was born like in 1920. So there you go. So back to Farm Sim 19. Lots of cool stuff has been coming out about it. We talked the last 2 episodes. We sort of went through some of the list of features that I have certainly heard about, that I have been sort of oogling over. I think everybody is really excited about the various differences between 19 and 17, regardless of whether it's crop types, vehicle types, or just what. I think everyone is excited about what the new version of the game that we all love is going to bring to us. And of course, a lot of us don't know. There's a lot of things that none of us know yet. Hopefully, and about again, as I record this episode, I believe when this episode is going to be coming out on Friday, the 16th. I believe that is when we're supposed to be able to start seeing the preview folks, the guys that are going to be having access to the early copy, the preview copy or whatever of Farm Sim 19. We should start seeing those streams, those live streams on YouTube or Twitch or whatever. I believe that there's going to be some of them are going to be coordinated through Giants, and then I think some of them are just going to be some of their guys, their testers that they have used in the past. So I'm really not sure where to tell you to look I would suggest that possibly, because I know Simulate is going to be doing some of the live streams, and I believe that also, well, I can't think of his name right now, but if you head over to the Simulation Gaming Society channel, a Discord channel, and if you hang out over there, I'm sure that we'll get videos or links or something posted up on those folks that will be doing those. And of course, there's going to be some German-speaking channels that'll be live streaming FarmSim 19. There'll be obviously some English-speaking channels, and etc. Good coffee this morning. Good coffee this morning. Some of the things, obviously, that we don't know about FarmSim 19, and what I'm really, I mean, yes, I'm excited to see somebody next week during the early previews working with cotton and stuff like that, but, you know, I figure that's one of the first things I'm going to be doing. I've already sort of posted this on Discord this last week that I was probably going to be doing cotton early on in the game, just because that is something that I'm really excited about. As a matter of fact, I'll be driving to Texas for Thanksgiving, as I've already talked about a couple of times, and we drive through the Texas Panhandle, and right around this time of year, right around the mid-November time frame, is when cotton is coming in. And the harvesters are out there, and if we're passing through during the daytime, they're harvesting. If we're passing through early in the morning or late at night, they're harvesting, and it's a pretty impressive sight to see. And so I'll be certainly watching with perhaps a little more enthusiasm as we drive through that stretch of Texas to go down to Thanksgiving, and then obviously coming back that direction as well. Watching that, and then obviously looking forward to being able to come home and start up my own cotton harvest empire. That will be cool. But some of the things that I'm curious about and excited to sort of understand, and hopefully the preview folks will do this. Now, I will tell you that last time with FarmSim 17, the preview guys, in my opinion, focus too much just on the gameplay. Now, I know that that's what everybody wants to see. That's what probably your average viewer wants to see. But there was a lot of questions I had that I really never could get. You know, I was trying to chat these questions in during the live streams and whatnot, and either I was just simply ignored, or the guy's like, well, I don't know. I would have to essentially stop the gameplay and figure out for you. But I was curious as to, was there any enhancements made to controller support, for third-party controller support between FS15 and FS17? That question to me, as I'm sitting here a little, less than 2 weeks away from the release of FarmSim 19, and about less than 3 weeks away from me actually having the opportunity to play it, that's a valid question for me. And I think it's a valid question for the majority of folks, I would think, because while I understand that a lot of folks play this game with mouse and keyboard, some use Xbox controllers, and I'm fairly confident that you're not going to have any problems. Though people from those two camps are not going to have any problems with the game. I'm sure it'll work just right out of the box with either of those two types of controllers. But even with 17, there was still some messing around that you had to do to get two different controller types working. So for example, if you've got the Logitech G27 like I do, and you also want to configure a joystick, it's not as easy. It's not straight out of the box. And I know back in the FS15 days, there was a whole lot of confusion about that. And that was one of the very first videos that I made, and I sort of talked about that a couple of episodes ago, about why I started my channel. And I think that was one of the first episodes that I did, was how to get your Logitech G27 wheel and pedals to work with FarmSim 15 at the same time of getting your like a Logitech Extreme Pro 3D joystick working without having to install extra hardware or software. There was a lot of videos out there that talked about the need to install other third-party software and everything to get it to work, and I'm like, that's nonsense. I don't think that's the case, but it's just not straightforward and out of the box on getting it done. And I would hope that now, some years down the road, that they have sorted that out. But who knows? It's possible that you'll load up the game. I'll load up the game when I get back from Thanksgiving trip and load it up and go into controllers, and it will look identical to how it looked in Farm Sim 15 and Farm Sim 17, because maybe they just assume that, okay, well, it worked, so therefore we're not going to waste our time enhancing that feature. We're just going to start enhancing the game. And I know that a lot of people, that's what they care about. They care about the game. They want to see the cotton harvesting. They want to see the weeding, the new weeding function. They want to see the new herbicide stuff. They want to see, God forbid, I don't know why, but they want to see somebody ride a horse. And those are the things. Those are cool, and I want to see those things too. Well, with the exception of somebody riding a horse, because I really don't care about the horses. But I want to know about the stuff under the hood, and hopefully, I doubt very seriously if any of the guys that are going to be previewing, like Daggerwin or Simulate or any of those folks, I really doubt that they're going to do that. And if I had the opportunity to do a preview, if Giants were to say, oh, there's this Grizzly Bear Sims guy who runs a G-rated channel and very upbeat and positive, and he's a small channel and everything. We're going to extend him a early copy, because I've already paid. I don't want anything for free, but we're going to extend him an early copy of Farm Sim 19. The first thing I would do, I would start with showcasing. And I would probably do these recorded videos so that you can go and watch them after the fact, and I would do them in my usual style of less than 30 minutes, and not make somebody have to watch a 6-hour live stream just to see stuff. But I would start at the very basics. I would showcase, maybe not showcase getting it installed. I think I just jumped back in the truck, didn't I? Not necessarily showcase getting the stuff installed, because hey, it just installs via Steam if you have that version. But I would show under the hood, and yeah, there would be a little bit of discipline in it on my part, because I would have to say to myself, okay, this is important to me as a viewer, so therefore I know it's important to my viewers for me to do this. Showcase the changes in the with the mod organization, if there is anything different there. Showcase the controller setup. Do those kind of things. But hey, guess what? Giants, I doubt very seriously that Grizzly Bear Sims is even on their radar. So that ain't gonna happen. But I really would hope, I really would wish and encourage, I will say encourage, any of those folks that get the preview copies, that are fortunate enough to get the preview copies, to do more than just play the game during your time that you're live streaming. Show those things. Show the setup. Show all of that kind of stuff, because that's of interest to a lot of people. That's of interest to a lot of people, because I will tell you that I'm done with all these other agricultural based simulation games, Cattle and Crops and Farmers Dynasty and Pure Farming and whatever. I'm done with them, because they all made, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, okay, and I'm entitled to my opinion just like you're entitled to your opinion, and as adults and as just rational human beings, hopefully we are we're okay enough to say, you're entitled to your opinion, I'm entitled to my opinion. They may not match up with each other, but we're adults, and we're going to still like each other and all of that good kind of stuff. But in my opinion, They didn't do the right things quick enough. They didn't get the right controller support going quick enough. And they made all of these, what I'm going to consider to be rookie mistakes, because I don't think that you can develop, you can spend months, maybe years, developing a simulation-based game and not include controller support for the popular wheels that are out there in your early release, because that would be the first thing. If I were a game developer, if I were running a team of game developers, that would be the first thing I would do. I would be like, okay, let's start from the ground up. Let's build in controller support. Then let's build in, this, and let's build in that, and let's do these things, and then we start on the game itself. Now, of course, I don't know anything about game development, so and that's why I'm not a game developer. But in any event, these are the things that I want to know about. These are the things that I hope you also want to know about. And of course, we're also excited and interested about some of the other things. Now, one thing that was confirmed yesterday, this was Friday the 9th of November, and again, you're going to be watching this episode about a week later, but that is how things go. Giants included the large John Deere combine. Now, I know that's going to give fuel to those that seem to think that FarmSim 19 is just the American John Deere simulator, but that's good news. It's good news for Giants, it's good news for John Deere, but it's also good news for us. So what if Giants has sort of appeared to be putting a little bit of emphasis on John Deere for this release of FarmSim? Of course, I don't know how to look this information up. If someone else does, please feel free to chime in and leave a comment in the notes. I think that there is a way, or at least there used to be a way, to look at how many copies sold through Steam. Now, of course, I don't think that we could ever know how many boxed copies got sold through like Amazon and through other retailers and stuff like that, but I think there's a way to find out through Steam. But I would be interested. I think it's a valid statistic that I bet that more copies of FarmSim 19 get sold than in the early days after release and everything than FarmSim 15 and 17. Not saying together, but just individually, those releases individually, for the simple fact that John Deere is natively in the game. Now, I know that there's some folks that are John Deere haters and all that kind of stuff, but I think that John Deere is certainly a brand. It's an IP that is an intellectual property that is common enough. It's sort of like the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Yankees. Those are two major league sports brands that are pretty much, you can go anywhere on the face of the planet, maybe with the exception of deep in Brazil in the Amazon forest or something, and you can show the Dallas Cowboys star or the New York Yankees logo, and people will know what that is. That the IP is just that big. John Deere, I think, is in that same category of things, and I think that in and of itself, with them being in the game, I think that's going to sell and generate a lot of new sales that maybe Giants would not have had. So that's just good for us, because if you're not a John Deere fan, don't use the John Deere equipment that's in the game. Use the New Holland, use the Case, use the Fendt, use those things, and wait for mods, and use the Claas if it's not included, and use the Fords if it's not included, and do whatever you want to do. But I think that hopefully you can recognize the fact that the more successful that Giants is with this game, okay, meaning the more copies that they sell and all of that kind of stuff, the more longevity that they will have, the more things that they will be able to do in the next development cycle for FarmSim 21. And let's face it, it's not too early to start talking about maybe some of the things we would like to see in FarmSim 21. But that's how those kind of things get funded. The future of FarmSim 21 is dependent upon the success of FarmSim 19. It's dollars and cents. That's exactly what it is. If consumers did not embrace FarmSim 19 in the way that we have previously embraced 17, 15, 13, 11, 9, etc., then FarmSim 21 might either A, never materialize, or B, it might not be what we might hope that it could be. So I'm not going to start talking about 21 any more than what I've already mentioned it, but I think you get my point. Hopefully you get my point. Hopefully it makes sense. Hopefully you agree. And yeah, so the last thing that I'll point out before I close this episode off, and then I'm going to finish harvesting this field off camera, and then we will come back together most likely on the next game day and hopefully start some soybeans. Of course, it may be raining, so I may have to skip a few days. I'm really thinking that this series is going to have maybe, including this episode, maybe about 3 more episodes or so, because as it currently sets, this would be episode number 29, which would come out on Friday the 16th of November. I'm not going to release a video on Saturday or Sunday, I don't think. I will have a video, GreenRiver episode number 30, which I've not recorded yet, will come out on Monday the 19th. Tuesday is FarmSim 19 day, obviously, but I'm also leaving for Texas on the 19th, the day before. I will probably have another couple of videos that will come out the week of Thanksgiving. If you guys have time to watch them, great. Of course, I will fully understand if the views drop, because you guys are all going to have your copy of FarmSim 19, and trust me, I will be living vicariously through my dear friends like Eustace Farmer and Doug Zorley, Farmer Klein, that hopefully will be putting out videos after the 20th that I can watch while I'm in Texas with FarmSim 19, and other folks, my dear friends Chris and David. If you guys have time to play, if you guys could message me through Discord, or just post messages in the public Discord for either Simulation Gaming Society or the Grizzly Bear Sims Discord channel, and let me know some of the answers to the questions about controller support, because I know you guys all have the wheels. Doug Zorley, anybody that has those, feel free to let me know if I'm going to be impressed, or if it's going to be a little bit of a challenge, what have you. I would really dearly love to know those things. And then I really think that's kind of where I think I'm going to drop things off for this episode. Again, as I said before, I'm going to come in off camera and we're going to finish this up, which is not much, maybe 10 minutes worth of work to get him to finish this field up. And then we have 2 soybean fields, and we have our field of sugar beets, which I'm excited to be able to do. And we will, at the very least, if sugar beets comes in before the soybeans, that is what we will start harvesting next, because I really want to use the ROPA equipment. I really want to be able to say, I use that DLC. I've yet to use it. It is in the twilight hours, the final minutes of the life of FarmSim 17, in a way, and I have yet to use that harvester. So I want to be able to do that. I want to be able to say that I at least used it and got my money's worth out of that DLC. So that's what we may do in the next episode, or it may be soybeans if the sugar beets are not ready yet. So anyway, I'm really appreciative for all of you for watching my content, my channel, and listening to me sit here and babble like I do, and I appreciate that. So again, without further ado, because we're about 34 minutes into this episode, thanks for watching. Take good care of yourself, also of each other. You don't have long to go before 19 comes out, and I know you're as excited about it as I am. So God bless you all. Take good care of yourself. Thank a vet, please. Keep the veterans in your thoughts and prayers. In all honesty, folks, every day should be Veterans Day, because if you're free to play this game and do all the other things that we do in a free society, then you have to stop and thank a vet for that, because they are the ones that have made the ultimate sacrifices so that we can live in a free society. Thank you all so much. God bless you all. Take care. Bye bye.